Well, hello, friends. Dr. Jerry Duggar here. Welcome to another episode of the Simple 7 Lifestyle Podcast. I'm excited to spend a few minutes with you today. As I sit down each week to consider what to talk about, I'm always trying to think of things that are practical and applicable and actionable, right? It's information that can start you on a journey of thought and help you start asking better questions about your health. A lot of us are kind of stuck. I mentioned this in the last episode talking about coaching. We often get stuck. We don't know exactly where the next answer is coming from. And it's our job just to kind of turn the radar on and be scanning the universe for insight. And what ends up happening is that messages come our way and ideas get sparked. And if you're open to that sort of input, you're going to find the direction that you need to go. And I hope that this podcast is something that serves that purpose. The underlying principles of functional medicine work on really basic physiological levels. And when we apply them carefully, it's really quite possible and probable that we can find answers to really complex health problems from a wide variety of imbalances and dysfunctions. And in fact, it seems like on a weekly basis, I'm sitting down with a patient and they've been referred to our office by a friend or a loved one, and they're suffering from a really complex health issue and they're kind of stymied. They've been to multiple physicians and one person saying one thing and addressing one part of the picture, but nobody's really putting it all together. And they're looking for that practitioner who can connect all the dots for them. I've been paying attention lately to some of the cases that we consistently get hit home runs with. And I've kind of boiled it down to maybe 5 kind of top categories. And so if a person walks in or Zooms in and we're meeting together and working together and they're dealing with fatigue, they're dealing with weight problems, or they're dealing with a gut issue, digestive complaint, or their hormones are a little out of balance, or they've got musculoskeletal pain. I mean, if they're walking in with a few of these issues going on, there's a really good chance that we're going to be able to get to the root of that with them and help empower them to improve their health. In today's episode, I want to focus on that very first symptom that I mentioned, and that is fatigue. I don't know if you guys are aware, but fatigue is either the primary or secondary complaint in over 20% of all trips to any doctor's office in the US. So 20% of everybody going to a doctor is dealing with something that is causing fatigue. So that means I'm talking to a lot of you out there who are dealing with that issue of just kind of running out of steam before the end of the day. And so we want to apply a functional medicine thought process to this. I'm hoping that if we can kind of break this down into 4 main levels, if you will, and we're going to work from big kind of lifestyle concepts all the way down to cellular issues. And let's walk through kind of how we think about this in a functional framework so that you know now maybe what questions to be asking, which areas to be running down, and instead of just kind of grabbing a pill or an energy drink or something to momentarily give you some energy. That's not a long-term solution. Let's dive in and let's first talk about the big lifestyle factors. Now, if I were to say which of the simple 7 lifestyle habits has the most direct impact on your energy, I think we could all agree it's probably sleep, right? It's pretty obvious that if you've got a sleep problem, it may impact your energy throughout the day. You might be surprised, however, that the number of people who are running out of energy, but they report that they stay up way too late and they're only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep. I know it sounds simple, but the reality is that these people realize the incongruity, but they're having a hard time actually making change. And that's a big topic. Trying to help people actually change involves all the coaching principles we talked about last time. But, if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of high quality sleep per night, this has to be addressed as soon as possible. Underlying health issues like sleep apnea, snoring, or even pain shouldn't be ignored. We spend a full episode talking about this topic. So if you want to go deeper into all the nuances of how to improve your sleep, go check out episode 4 of the podcast. In addition to sleep, we also need to consider the quality of our diet and the adequacy of our movement. So that involves 2 other pillars of wellness, right? Many of us are eating foods that are simply empty calories. They don't have any nutrient value to them. They create very little energy. They leave us riding a cycle of hunger and energy ups and downs throughout the day. And so we have to understand the fundamentals of feeding our body. And we highlight that in episode 6. So go dive into episode 6 and learn about that and make sure that you're addressing this low-hanging fruit, no pun intended. Now, what about our sedentary lifestyles? Okay, that's certainly not helping us create energy. When we're physically active through movement and through exercise, we create a more efficient metabolism, and we burn energy. We become much more efficient at burning energy and generating new energy. So beginning a sensible fitness plan and learning how to increase our activity and our movement throughout the day with high intensity interval training and weightlifting and cardiovascular fitness, all of these are really critical also for energy. So we did a deep dive just recently, episode 33, but also way back in episode 8. So there's several episodes on lifestyle factors that could be the smoking gun here that are causing you to not have enough energy. Okay, so that's the top layer. That's lifestyle. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's go down to the organ and system level. First and foremost, we should discuss the importance of your thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland is kind of a master metabolic engine. It is sending a message through thyroid hormones down to your cells, and it is telling the cells how fast to work. Unfortunately, we have a boatload of people, millions upon millions of Americans, dealing with hypothyroid or low thyroid function. In addition to low energy, they may have cold hands or feet. They may have their hair falling out. They may have dry skin. They may have brain fog, heaviness in their body. It's difficult to do what they want to do. So they might also be depressed. So getting your thyroid hormone levels checked is critical, but I want to just say it can be a little bit tricky. Unfortunately, the way it's treated in mainstream conventional medicine is to do a basic blood test and look for one marker called the TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And if that's normal, most of the time doctors won't do any additional investigation. But there are a lot of people with quote unquote normal TSH levels who are still dealing with a functional thyroid problem, but it's not being picked up or managed correctly by their physician. And really, in my opinion, thyroid issues are one of the main areas where functional medicine really shines, because we go deeper and look for those underlying problems that may be compromising how well the thyroid is working on the cellular level. And in fact, I wrote a blog article on this that I'll create the link to in the show notes, called The Functional Medicine Approach to Thyroid Health. So I want you to read through that and understand the different hormones that need to be part of your blood test. TSH, yes, but also T4, T3, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, and thyroid antibodies. Okay, so once we understand what's happening with the lifestyle and now the thyroid, the other major driver of fatigue, I would say, is any type of anemia. And to put it simplistically, anemia is a situation where the red blood cells are not able to transport and carry oxygen to our cells. So in order for our cells to make energy, they need oxygen. If we don't get enough oxygen to the cell, the engine just doesn't run, just like your car. It's got to have intake of air, and if it's not happening, then the engine won't run. There are lots of causes of anemia. Some of the main issues, of course, are iron deficiency, or B12 deficiency, folate deficiency. Transporting oxygen to cells is such a foundational physiological process that if it isn't working well, it will be nearly impossible for the body to heal itself and to function properly. So getting to the root of where this anemia is coming from becomes a primary clinical objective. It goes right to the top of the treatment list. If we find somebody has anemia, That has to be addressed first before we go on to anything else, really, because without oxygen to the cells, you're not going to repair, not going to heal well. So, like I said, this could come from a lot of different places. It could be a B12 or folate deficiency, iron deficiency, but it also could be a problem of nutrient absorption. That would lead us to think of a gut problem, a digestive system issue. Could be an autoimmune disorder. Could be something like celiac disease. So there could be something wrong with the size or shape or the function of the blood cells themselves. And there's a lot of diseases that can cause that. And then there could also be a loss of blood. Maybe all the hormones are great and iron's great, but you're losing blood. This could be, from heavy menstrual periods, or this could be from a chronic GI bleed that you don't know is happening. So, like I said, finding the source of this anemia becomes a really big clinical objective right off the bat. Okay. All of these drivers need to be evaluated. So now let's get down into the cell itself. We just talked about the importance of getting oxygen into the cells, but there's other nutrients that have to be inside of that cell as well. Inside of our cell, we have a little energy production factory called the mitochondria, and these little organelles are primarily responsible for making energy. And when they're working at 100%, we're going to feel great. But when they're not working at 100%, we have less cellular energy available for our body. So mitochondria can be damaged by a lot of different things. Inflammation, toxins from our environment, oxidative stress, mental and emotional trauma, infection, and inflammation. So there are key nutrients needed for the mitochondria to work well. And it's best to get these nutrients from a nutrient-dense diet, from our lifestyle, but they're also available in supplement form to help us when our energy is already tanked. Let's just run through a couple of the big hitters that show up in the research related to mitochondrial function. Number one is glutathione. Glutathione is a master antioxidant of the body. It's a powerhouse antioxidant. And our bodies make this. It isn't something that we eat. It's actually something that our body creates from the food that we eat. In order to make glutathione, we need an amino acid called L-cysteine. And so we have to make sure that we're digesting our protein well and we're eating enough protein in order to make glutathione. Now, there's a few other things that are necessary to make glutathione, but let's just keep this simple today. There's another one called acetyl L-carnitine, another important amino acid that is in red meat, and this helps glutathione production. We also need B vitamins. I mentioned, of course, B12 and folate, but all the B vitamins are important for energy production. Our bodies need an adequate amount of fats and fatty acids, and particularly alpha lipoic acid has been shown to be particularly helpful in supporting the mitochondria in our brain and our nervous system. Now, you might have also heard of CoQ10. It's another important antioxidant. CoQ10 is essential for mitochondrial function. In fact, without it, there's no way for the engine to run at all. So other things like resveratrol, omega-3 fatty acids, catechins from green tea, quercetin, a lot of these antioxidant molecules that are found in dark, colorful foods. Okay, so how we've gone from lifestyle, we've gone down to organs, and now we're looked in the cell, and there could be glitches at any point along that spectrum. So how do we assess where the problem might be? So let me just kind of share how I think about this with an imaginary couple. We'll call them Larry and Mary, okay? And they're both in their late 40s. They've both been feeling pretty run down. They're just losing energy. They're not making it through the end of the day. They work hard and they come home and they don't have energy at night to manage the dinner and the kids and clean up the house and do all the things. You get it. By the time the regular routine is done, Mary is completely exhausted and she just wants to go to bed. Larry is tired as well, but he likes to watch his favorite sports program on TV, so he likes to just veg in front of the TV for a while, sometimes even just falls asleep on the couch before he wakes up and goes back up to bed. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter how much Mary rests. She wakes up feeling like she didn't get much sleep. She's not rested in the morning. And Larry is also a heavy snorer. And that disrupts Mary's sleep. So she's sometimes secretly happy when he's sleeping on the couch. Now, both Mary and Larry are significantly overweight, and their diet isn't very good. In fact, they're so exhausted that it's difficult to come home and whip up a really healthy, nutritious meal. So many nights of the week, they're stopping and grabbing fast food and, or getting takeout and bringing it home and eating that. So they're kind of following the standard American diet and, unfortunately, the standard American lifestyle. Now, the difference is they're finally at a point where they're recognizing this can't continue, and they're tired of feeling tired. So they have made an appointment with me. All right, let's just take this couple and let's put them in the room with me now. Where are we going to start? Well, when we do a deep assessment and we list out all their complaints and their symptoms and their lifestyle, we see right off the bat, we've got to make some changes to the simple things. We've got to help them get on a better sleep routine, clean up their evening routine, give them a better morning routine so that they at least are creating the window for them to get enough sleep. We've got to evaluate whether Larry has sleep apnea or some other obstructive airway issue. Because even if we get him sleeping 7-8 hours, if he's got apnea, he's not going to feel well and he's not going to have energy. So now that becomes high on our list. You got that? So we've got creating the space for sleep, but now we have to figure out if there's anything wrong with the actual sleep process. I already mentioned that they're eating a standard American junk food diet. So this may be causing nutrient deficiency, very likely causing a lot of nutrient deficiencies. Those could be affecting mitochondrial health, as well as driving inflammation, particularly of the gut, which may be affecting absorption of nutrients. So they're not getting enough, and even the ones they're getting are difficult to absorb. And all of this inflammation and maybe even blood sugar instability can be driving the thyroid into a state of dysfunction. So now we've got to address diet for both of those reasons. Here's the other thing. Larry is getting heartburn because of this crappy diet. And that heartburn, what is he doing? He's taking Prilosec, and he's trying to calm down this heartburn that he's getting. He's not aware of the fact that taking antacids actually further reduces the ability of his body to extract the nutrients he needs from food. It's compromising his protein digestion, which now is not allowing him to have these basic amino acids needed to build energy. Okay, so that's not a good place. We've got to help Larry address heartburn from a functional perspective. In our consultation, Mary also now reveals that she's in perimenopause and her menstrual cycle is changing. It's different than it used to be, and she's got a lot more bleeding. Okay, there's a risk factor for anemia in Mary. We've got to figure out if that's going. She also mentioned that her mother and her sister both have thyroid issues. And in fact, she thinks her sister might even have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroid condition. All right, so now we've got to put that on our list. How do we evaluate Mary's thyroid? So we know between the two of them, we've got to run a comprehensive blood panel. We've got to look for anemia. We've got to look for a full thyroid panel to see what's happening there. We're going to look for thyroid antibodies for Mary. While we're at it, it makes sense to also look at all of their hormones: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, DHEA. We want to see the whole hormonal milieu. Why? Because they're both in this stage of life, and their lifestyle is going to be driving their hormones out of balance. You can't create good energy with hormones that aren't working. So we're going to evaluate blood sugar, right? They're eating a terrible diet, and they're overweight, and they're fatigued. That means we've likely got a blood sugar problem. So we need to look for fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and also something called hemoglobin A1C. And we're going to also do a complete blood count and a comprehensive metabolic panel. We want to see if they have any damage or any problems with the way their red blood cells can even carry oxygen. So the cool thing is all of that is found in a good comprehensive blood test. Unfortunately, most doctors are running kind of paltry blood tests that aren't comprehensive enough. So we want to make sure we've got all of those things evaluated. Now, it's likely that we're going to find a lot of causes for their fatigue just in this lifestyle and nutrition workup and their blood test. But in a case like this, we also often run a functional test called an organic acid test. An organic acid test can give us a window into the function of the mitochondria itself. So that's a great test to add to this mix. So here's the summary. I mean, I don't want to say chronic fatigue syndrome, but I'm just saying long-standing fatigue that's gradually getting worse over time. They don't know what's going on. And we may be able to turn this around in a matter of 30, 60 days. But how are we going to do it? We're going to have to do a comprehensive consultation. Look at all of the factors in their lifestyle that are driving problems. They're going to also meet for an hour with a health coach. They're going to meet with Tammy, right? She's going to pull out her ninja skills to help them actually make some simple but important changes in the way they're structuring their entire life. That can be a daunting conversation, but it's super empowering also when you know, oh, I can tweak this and change this and change this, and pretty soon I might be an entirely different routine. We're going to run a comprehensive blood panel. We're going to run an organic acid test. And remember, we're going to refer Larry out for a sleep study. All right. I'll bet within 2 to 3 weeks, we've got all this lab work back and we can sit down and find these problems and then create a customized roadmap to recovery. Might be very similar in some areas between Larry and Mary, but there's also going to be very specific things that each person needs to do based on their physiology and their test results. So this is where functional medicine really shines. We're actually going to solve the root issues. So even with all of these things potentially in play with this imaginary couple, I'm going to give these guys a 90% chance within the next 90 days that they're going to have tremendous changes in their energy. I can easily see this couple 30 to 40 pounds lighter, sleeping through the night, and getting plenty of energy throughout the day. We see this routinely. Sounds good, right? So if you or a loved one are dealing with energy issues, and there's a good chance if it's not you, it's somebody you know, they're fatigued and they're running out of their juice, right? They're running out of vitality. So like I said, if you or a loved one are dealing with an energy issue, you really owe it to yourself to have a functional medicine workup. We've all got tons of things to do. We're all trying to make a positive impact on this world. So we're going to need to have all the energy available if we're going to get stuff done. I hope it's been helpful for you to listen to me kind of think through this on different levels, kind of big macro level, all the way down to the microscopic cellular level, and all the different places where energy could be lost. And help you understand that there's ways to evaluate where those problems are and ways to functionally fix them without just, slapping a Band-Aid on it. So I just want you to know you can overcome fatigue. You can get your energy back. You can get vitality and energy again, and it won't take years and years to do it. All right, so that's it for today. Until next time, let's go out and make a difference and do something good in the world.